Hey everybody, it's RJ, your host, and welcome to Hash It Out. CBD trends are shifting in the United States, with revenue for CBD products declining in recreational cannabis dispensaries as products become more widely available in conventional retailers such as drugstores and supermarkets. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Franny Tacy of Franny's Farmacy about the effects of changing CBD trends and retail revitalization. We'll also discuss the importance of education, research, and nonprofit work in the hemp industry, the gray area surrounding Delta-8 THC, and more. Without further ado, let's hash it out. My guest today is the CEO of Franny's Farmacy and the first female legal hemp grower in North Carolina in over 75 years. Welcome to the show, Franny Tacy. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, I am super pleased to be here with you.
Yes, absolutely. And your backdrop looks amazing. I love all of the visual representations you've come with today. And I am super, super excited to ask you about everything you've got going on at Franny's Farmacy, as well as your perspective on some of the shifting trends regarding CBD retail when it comes to CBD products becoming more widely available in conventional retailers, such as a supermarket or a drugstore. So just in diving in here, in providing our viewers and our listeners a little more about you, yourself, and your experience, if I have all of these factoids correct, and please correct me if I misspeak anything here, but in 2017, you planted hemp varieties initially for food and fiber, and then without knowing, like I said, became the first female legal hemp farmer in North Carolina in over 75 years, which is in and of itself an amazing milestone. In 2018, you pivoted then from to growing hemp varieties for cannabinoid production and opened then your first Franny's Farmacy dispensary in downtown Asheville, North Carolina. Now, I understand that prior to all of that, your experience in farming and agriculture actually dates further back to 2012, if not earlier. So in your experience, how has the hemp and CBD industries changed over time in your perspective, whether that be for better or for worse?
Well, I mean, we're super digging into some really hot topics now. So thanks for laying that down. Retail
Absolutely.
is huge. Everything has changed since 2017, and I planted that first seed. In 2018, yes, we started our first CBD dispensary. But when you're the first, you have no choice but to be resourceful and figure everything out. So we're vertically integrated now. We ended up, yes, we had a crop, but we had to figure out how are we going to process this and partner and collaborate with our alchemists for processing. How do we bring this through manufacturing? Well, we had to create our own manufacturing. There was nobody actually doing this. And that's where a lot of my pharma background came in. And then we opened that dispensary. And from there, instantly, it was a hit. I mean, we were one of the first in town. Nobody was here. Everybody was curious. A lot of the concepts that we build, even our franchises on, is local owner operators, people that are embedded in their community. That's how we really make a difference with our dollars, with our taxes, with our information, with our education. So that went on to fund. Now we have franchising, 8 dispensaries, distribution, opening our next one in Charlotte and Atlanta. And boy, has this industry changed. I mean, everything. So we've seen in retail where we own the market. When you're the first, we own the market. And now we're seeing that consumers are more educated. After COVID, we all were able to shift, a lot of us, to online sales because we were already established. But there's so many people and retailers out there. We look at almost 90% of all the small CBD stores that were in business didn't make it through the pandemic. That had a lot to do with regulations. Those that did will survive. But as we've seen now, like consumerism for this has grown, and we're seeing this in box stores and grocery stores everywhere. So
Hmm.
the whole face of this market has changed and is going to continue as consumers become more educated.
Certainly. And what was it like for you to sort of over the course of the past year navigate the change in trends as a result of the pandemic? Because we saw demand for cannabis, hemp, and CBD products really skyrocket over the course of the past year. Mix in, the confusion revolving what was essential, that, back then when we were still trying to figure out which businesses were allowed to operate and which ones weren't. What was it like for you as someone in the North Carolina area to deal with not only restrictions, but also an increase in demand for your product during the course of the past year?
Yeah, one of the really most interesting aspects is our corporate office and all of a manufacturing distribution. We're based out of North Carolina, but we have dispensaries in South Carolina, Georgia,
Hmm.
Connecticut. So the differences in how that varied among states. All of our dispensaries had to close at certain points or another, some for a month, up to 3 months. And
Oh,
so we saw huge plummeting sales, but what we saw with the curbside and delivery that was being offered, like Athens, in Athens, Georgia, they were able to do delivery. And so it really carried them through that pandemic.
mm,
And the customers that we ended up connecting with, the new customers, the influx of new people that were very interested in education and being able to do phone consults and really understanding that health and wellness aspect, we saw huge changes in people's relationship with cannabis and hemp. And those people are now what we call loyal customers. In retail, I've just been speaking all over the country and to thousands of entrepreneurs about the revival of retail and
certainly.
what we have to do in order to bring retail back. Everybody's like, when are we going to get back to normal? Well, likely never, but that retail experience is part of what we've always been as humans attached to. We go in and we get to see it and feel it and touch it and use our senses. So I really do believe that the revival of retail is coming, especially in this cannabis space, especially in
Mm,
the cannabis space because of the customer service and the ability for humans to talk about an experience and get information that is very specific to them, very personalized.
certainly.
We have seen our online business growing, and our franchisees have an ability, they get a piece of that online business. So they're all very much still connected with consumers that were loyal to them that have not returned to the store, but are shopping through their vehicle in our online stores.
I see. I see. And speaking of this sort of revitalization of retail and the shifts in retail trends, specifically with CBD products, there was an analysis of retail figures from the cannabis data firm Headset, which showed that since 2018, sales of CBD only items at recreational cannabis dispensaries specifically have been declining in numerous states, largely in part due to CBD products shifting in availability to, like you said,
Mhm.
online retailers and also conventional retailers such as, your drugstores, your pharmacies, and your supermarkets out there. Or, I mean, I see CBD products at my local farmers market every week now too.
Yeah.
Um, so is that a trend that you are seeing yourself? And what are your thoughts on how CBD becoming more widely available in conventional retailers? How do you see that affecting the CBD and the hemp industries overall?
I mean, these are really great questions. And especially for entrepreneurs, because we live in the vision and the risk of the future and predicting all of these things. One of the most positive aspects that has been driving the change beyond just the accessibility of it is the consumer's experience and education. We have more research, more trials. There's more availability of not just straight CBD or straight THC. We see a lot of the research, especially in medical research, coming out with ratios of 1-to-1. I'm huge. Coming from pharmaceutical, I'm the ultimate geek. We set up trials on our farm, trials, everything. I've been doing this since I was in college as a forestry student. Trials. We're getting more educated. We have more research that's talking about different varieties of products and how they're used. So as we're expanding, and we've just gone through a complete restructure of everything from store designs, rolling out new products that are now in categories, because we have more access to different cannabinoids now too. So this is all the very beginning of the evolution. I mean, we just got the wheel with 3 spokes, and we just keep adding spokes, and we're getting faster and better. And, the diversity is what is bringing also the change we see in some of these statistics. A little bit more THC, more CBD, more ratios, more variety to be more targeted.
Certainly.
That's where we're getting.
I'm also a big proponent of the ratio sort of vibe. Like a 1-to-1 mixture of a THC and CBD I found lately has been really my sweet spot. And so I love that you bring that up. And, and all that being said, with, the shifts in retail happening for CBD goods still generated about $43 million in revenue alone at cannabis dispensaries, at recreational cannabis dispensaries in just 4 states. So that was just looking at California, Colorado, Nevada, and Washington in 2020 alone. So last year. And that alone accounts for 10% of total CBD sales in the country. Now, additionally, recent statistics show that total CBD sales revenue for recreational cannabis merchants in these states totaled approximately $42 million in just May of this year, of 2021. Yeah. And that's a rise of 110% since May of 2018. So as someone who is seasoned in the industry, you've certainly seen a lot of developments and a lot of changes happening ever since you've begun working in this industry. What predictions do you have for the future of trends for CBD? And how do you see, if any at all, lasting effects due to the pandemic? Do you see any sort of, lasting changes that you think might come as a result of the pandemic in terms of affecting the CBD industry?
Yeah, I think coming post-pandemic, we're all at a place right now where we understand a lot of sales have shifted online. That's gonna be a trend that continues, that we're probably gonna make it through, and it's not gonna be an apocalypse. And that we're evolving and we're changing. But one thing we know about CBD, and what I love, is this is going to continue to be a foundational trend for cannabis. One reason, it's unregulated, it's legal, federally legal, and everybody can consume it. It's good for your pets, it's the elderly, the children. It's the entire market, where THC is never going to be that. Never use that in your animals, people. I know people like to think it might be good for them. Not. So we know that CBD is going to be a foundational term for all this future development. But like where we are and looking towards the future, we have new product lines coming out. So it's not just CBD anymore. It is CBD. And so in our sleep line, we have chamomile and CBD, and we put CBN in that. So now as we discover all these new cannabinoids, we've got blends. And this is why retail is going to make it, is because people need to understand that they're new trends. You can't go to a big box store and look at all the variety there and determine how do you really dose and what is it all about. There's still so much consumer education on our path to this becoming a household item for everybody. I mean, it's it's great. So in our expanded product lines, we're bringing in more cannabinoids. We're bringing in more product lines so that you'll have all sorts of different mechanisms of action in the way that you consume it, either edibles or tincture, or smokables, food, so many topicals. So expanded and more product lines, more cannabinoids. We're going to see it.
Certainly.
So now, I'm just very excited about that.
And in that line of speaking about expanding product lines, consumer trends, and also how you mentioned, the federal legality of hemp and how it, of course, draws a very big distinction from cannabis itself. Just the federal illegality causes a lot of different conflicts there. However, there is a new sort of gray area that is emerging in the hemp in the hemp space specifically, and that is Delta 8. Now, I see that you have Delta 8 products now on your website, and because it's derived from hemp, it's technically legal from what I understand. However, many states now, I think most notably and most recently New York State, has joined a list of states throughout the nation working on either restricting or fully prohibiting the use of Delta 8 products. Now, just briefly, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you see that situation playing out with Delta 8?
There's a lot of politics behind that. Obviously, CBD and hemp and marijuana, all cannabis, right? But when it comes down to that, the marijuana industry and that area of cannabis definitely wants the hold on Delta 8. All I've done is walk illegally. When I did a TED Talk in 2018, before I even opened a dispensary, I've done everything illegal and I love it. And it doesn't matter, because if it's not illegal yet. And therefore, I make a stand and I talk about it all the time. They've sent out letters, just like they did with smokable hemp, saying, NCDA, North Carolina Department of Agriculture, we do not deem this as legal. You should not carry it. And I'm like, okay, well, we educated everybody. I extend an invitation. Please come in and try to remove that from my shelves, because you can't. It's not illegal.
Right.
So I'll be challenged quite often. I've been on the news and FaceTime Live, and they did live things when they had SLED in our South Carolina stores. They were raiding across the entire state and taking smokable hemp, Delta 8. They take that stuff off the shelves and out of CBD stores, but they've never come in a Franny's Farmacy. So when we say seed to shelf, hemp and health, everything we do is traceable right back to the source. Right. And we're going to sell Delta 8 until they tell us we cannot, because it is hemp derived, it is legal, and we can see, follow the money. We see the states where, it switched. It's not in the hemp side, it's in the marijuana side now. Follow the money, people. Get it where you can. It's amazing, but I love to learn. I didn't know. I took some Delta 8. We don't do animal testing. We do Franny testing. And within 30 minutes, I was like asleep like I've never been before. And I was like, what happened? I'm a huge researcher. I love to look at the research, and then I love to experience it, because that's what really keeps a consumer coming back, is what is the experience and how do you feel? So we got Delta 8 there, and we're going to keep on shipping it, selling it until they say you can't. There's all the states it's restricted in. So that's one thing that's interesting as we built through the pandemic, are online. That's a whole different business, people. The whole e-commerce and online, just because in this industry we don't advertise, we can't market the way any other industry does. I had 11 businesses before. This one is different, not business as usual. That's why we franchise, show people the path. But, we do on our online business, if it's illegal in your state, you could try to order it, but you do get an autoresponder that pops up and they say, we're sorry, we're not able to ship it to your state. So don't get too excited if you see this and think you can get it. But if it's legal in your state, if it's not illegal in your state, you can get it.
There you go. There you go. I like that. I like that. Now, and keep fighting that good fight too. I really, absolutely. Yeah, I wish you all the best. Yeah, I wish you all the best.
If the law stopped me from doing what I wanted to do, I would not be sitting here talking to you today.
There you go. I like that. I like that. Now, one more thing I want to ask you before I let you go here is your nonprofit work. So since the inception of the legal hemp and cannabis industries, equal and equitable representation among demographics has certainly been a topic of priority, whether that be with minority demographics or women in the industry. So with that being said, tell me about the nonprofit you helped establish, which is aptly named Women in Hemp.
Yes, super proud of this work. Debbie Custer, who's the executive director, is also a researcher. I pretty much am a researcher as well. And so it was really important to us in establishing and getting into this business to be able to have the education and research component, also from reliable sources. And as getting into manufacturing, I had to know who are the breeders, who are the researchers, how do we have consistency, all that really analytically stuff that is involved. And that's where Women in Hemp really got founded. We needed education and research, and research.
Certainly.
And so through our fundraising, through our education, we're represented across the entire country at almost every CBD type of show that is out there, hemp and cannabis. And we raise money. We're culminating a 3-year trial. It'll be the first 3-year farm trial. So all my farms that grow for us, in that consistency, we chose one breeder, so Triangle Hemp, NC State. We funded a PhD and master's student that go on to all these farms and take data. At the end of this year, we are going to see the biggest thing that Women in Hemp has done through their educational and research foundation. Now, there are some other things that we do on smaller levels, but this is monumental. And to do 3 years in an emerging industry, I'm going to tell you, it's been challenging. All the funding, a lot of the funding got pulled during COVID. So we've gotten really creative into how we continue to perpetuate that. But that is, and I love it. We're full of attorneys and researchers and we get to geek out on data and find other people to support. So it's extended into product development. Debbie does a lot of stuff in the food industry on the food side of it. So it's really a great vehicle to get data and research. That's Women in Hemp. That's the basis of that nonprofit.
And that,
super proud of it.
Accessibility to that data is so valuable, right? To further legitimize the industry and facilitate that public education that you mentioned earlier in our conversation. You mentioned that study that is scheduled to come out. Do you have like a tentative timeline of when our viewers and our listeners might be able to expect that?
Well, this is the final year. These are on-farm trials. Everything's been planted this year. We usually harvest late September, early October in this region. It is regional through North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and a Virginia farm. So very regional to this area. So we could expect, as farmers, by the time we're done with harvest, we pretty much lay our heads down to rest and then start into data collection and drying and curing and all this stuff. So
Sure.
by the winter, we expect by the end of the year that we'll have our final research data in from the field trials. And what's really fascinating is it does take 3 years to do research. There is no research that happens in 1 year. So we've done colored plastic trials, we've done, which are traditional in agriculture, to see if this helps with insects, with erosion, it's just so exciting to know that we've made it this long. It seems like forever, and yet it's just a blink of an eye. But if you grow and you get through a season, by the end of it, you feel like you just took a trip around the world on foot.
Oh, I bet, certainly. And I mean, and you sort of did, cultivating something that comes from the earth and, seeing it through that full life cycle. I've always just been, I have such a deep personal admiration for farmers, just as, it's so fulfilling of a duty to undertake, to be a farmer in the world and to bring these goods and these crops and this food and hemp and all of these wonderful gifts of the earth to people is the most, in my mind, the most essential thing you could do, and one of the most admirable things that you could do as a human and as a cultivator of life on this planet. And so I thank you so much for all that you are doing and all that you continue to do. We will certainly leave information not only for Franny's Farmacy, but also for Women in Hemp in the description of this episode down below for our viewers and listeners. Definitely check them out. And we will certainly be keeping an eye on all that you are doing over there, all of the work that you are doing. And I thank you so much for offering your perspective and being very generous with your time and sharing your expertise and all that you see going on in the CBD industry. So I thank you so much for joining me.
What a pleasure. And my last extension of an offer is our farm, Franny's Farm, is open to the public. And we have a hemp history tour and a hemp garden through there. So anybody listening, any viewers, all you have to do is just book a place and you can come see for yourself, because seeing still is believing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And I was going to say off air that I would love to visit the farm one of these days. And so, I would love to join in on one of those tours one of these days soon. So hopefully someday soon we can rehash it out and maybe do an on location sort of vibe. That would be nice, huh? Yeah, right on. I'm looking forward to that. I will definitely keep in contact with you in regards to that. But for now, Franny Tacy, thank you so much again for your time. I really appreciate it. Please continue all of the good work and continue to be well and stay safe. Wishing you love, light, and health out there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And that is it for Hash It Out, y'all. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and commenting, and subscribing. I am your host, as always, RJ Balde, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Hash It Out. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure to subscribe and keep up with our TRICHOMES community app. Download it now for free, and we'll see you there.